Her name was Amara. She lived in a small two-room house on the edge of a town where electricity was a luxury, not a right. Her father pulled a rickshaw for a living. Her mother stitched clothes late into the night to earn a few extra rupees. There was no study table in Amara's house. No lamp, no fan. Some nights, there wasn't even food. Just water and the promise that tomorrow would be better. But Amara had one thing that no poverty could take away. She had a hunger. Not for food, for knowledge. At school, while other children played during breaks, Amara sat alone reading the one textbook she owned, a torn, secondhand science book with half its pages missing. Her teacher noticed. One day she asked her, "Amara, why do you read like your life depends on it?" And Amara answered with words that would define her entire future. "Because it does, ma'am. This book is the only door out of this house." Part 2. The night everything changed. When Amara turned 13, her family's small house lost electricity permanently. They couldn't afford to pay the pending bill. For most children, this would have been the end of studying at night. For Amara, it was the beginning of something extraordinary. One evening, walking back from a neighbor's house, she noticed a streetlight at the corner of her lane, one of the few in
the area that still worked. It wasn't bright. It flickered every few seconds like it was struggling to stay alive itself. But it was light, and that was enough. That night, Amara carried her notebook, sat on an old wooden crate beneath that streetlight, and studied for 3 hours straight. Mosquitoes bit her legs, stray dogs wandered nearby, cars occasionally splashed dirty rainwater on her books. She didn't move. From that night on, it became her ritual. Every single evening, rain or shine, winter or summer, Amara walked to that streetlight with her notebook clutched to her chest like it was the most valuable thing she owned. Because to her, it was. Neighbors started noticing. Some pitied her. Some mocked her. "Look at her," one woman whispered to another, "sitting outside like a beggar with a book. As if studying will change anything for a girl like her." Amara heard those words. She never responded. She simply turned the page and kept reading. Part 3. The Price of Her Dream. 600-930. People often romanticize struggle after it's over. But real struggle is ugly. It's exhausting. It's lonely. Amara would wake up at 5 a.m. to help her mother with house chores before school. She'd walk 2 kilometers to reach her school because there was no money for transport. After school, she'd help her father clean the rickshaw. And at night, every night, she'd walk to that streetlight and study until her eyes could barely stay open. There were nights she cried under that lamp, not because she was weak, but because she was human. She was tired. She was hungry. She saw other kids her age with tuition classes, laptops, and study lamps of their own, while she had a flickering bulb and a wooden crate. One night, it rained so hard that her notebook got soaked, and half her handwritten notes were destroyed. She sat there in the rain, hugging her ruined notebook, sobbing. But even that night, she didn't go home. She waited for the rain to slow down, dried the pages as best as she could with her dupatta, and kept reading by that same flickering streetlight, water still dripping from her hair. That night, something shifted in her. She later said in an interview, "I realized that giving up would be easier. But easier isn't what I wanted. I wanted a different life. And different lives are never built on easy nights." When Amara was 16, her school announced a state-level science scholarship.
The top 3 students would receive full scholarships to a prestigious residential school, one that could change the entire trajectory of a poor student's life. Every top-performing student in her school entered. Students who had private tutors, students who had proper lighting, food, and rest, students who had every advantage Amara didn't. Her classmates laughed when she said she was appearing for the exam. "You study under a streetlight and you think you can beat kids with tutors?" one boy scoffed. Amara said nothing. She simply studied harder. For 2 months leading up to the exam, she didn't miss a single night under that lamp, not even during the coldest week of winter when her fingers went numb holding the pencil. The day of the exam came. Amara walked in wearing her only decent set of clothes, carrying a pencil box held together with tape. 3 weeks later, the results were announced. Amara had scored the highest in the entire district. When her name was called out first at the assembly, the same students who had mocked her fell completely silent. The teacher, who had once asked her why she read like her life depended on it, walked up to her, tears in her eyes, and said, "Amara, you didn't just win a scholarship. You proved that light doesn't come from where you sit. It comes from within you." Part 5. A New World, New Struggles, 1300 to 1700. The scholarship changed Amara's circumstances, but it didn't erase her struggles. It simply gave her new ones. At her new residential school, she was surrounded by children from wealthy families, children who had never known what it meant to study without electricity. She felt like an outsider. Her clothes were different, her accent was different, her confidence, at first, was shaky. But Amara had something those children
didn't fully understand. Resilience forged under a flickering streetlight, in the rain, in the cold, through mockery and exhaustion. While other students complained about difficult subjects, Amara welcomed them. Because to her, no classroom challenge would ever compare to studying by a broken lamp, with mosquitoes biting her ankles. She decided, during her time at that school, exactly what she wanted to become: a doctor. Not just any doctor. A doctor who would return to villages like hers and give people access to the healthcare they never had. It wasn't an easy decision. Medical school meant years of expensive study, brutal entrance exams, and a level of competition most students spend their entire lives preparing for, with resources Amara never had. But Amara had already proven, to herself if no one else, that resources were never the real requirement. Determination was. Part 6. The Hardest Years, 17 to 21. The medical entrance exam in her country was one of the most competitive in this world. Millions of students applied every year for a fraction of available seats. Amara spent the next 2 years preparing, often studying 16 hours a day. She earned a small stipend by tutoring younger students, which she used to buy second-hand preparation books. She slept 4 hours a night. She skipped meals to save money for study materials. Her father, still pulling his rickshaw every day, would sometimes wait outside her coaching center just to walk her home safely at night, even though he was exhausted from his own 12-hour shifts. One night, Amara broke down in front of him. "Baba," she said, "what if I fail? What if all of this, all your struggle, all my nights under that lamp, what if it means nothing?" Her father, a man who never finished school himself, looked at her and said
something Amara never forgot. "Amara, the streetlight didn't get you here. Your refusal to sit in the dark did. Whether you pass this exam or not, you have already become something this world tries to prevent poor children from becoming: unstoppable." That night gave her the strength to keep pushing through the final stretch. Exam day arrived. Amara walked into the exam hall with the same torn confidence and quiet fire she had carried since she was 14 years old, sitting on a wooden crate under a broken light. Weeks later, the results were released. Amara had qualified. Not just qualified, she had secured a rank high enough to enter one of the top medical colleges in the country on a full scholarship. Part 7. Becoming Dr. Amara, 21 to 2430. Medical school brought a different kind of exhaustion. Anatomy labs, endless textbooks, sleepless nights during clinical rotations. But Amara had already trained herself for years to function without comfort, without rest, without guarantees. She graduated at the top of her class. On the day of her white coat ceremony, as she stood on that stage in her white coat for the first time, her parents sat in the audience.
her father in the same worn sandals he'd worn for a decade, her mother wearing a sari she had stitched herself. When Amara received her medical degree, she didn't rush to a hospital in a big city for a high-paying job. Instead, she did something that broke and healed hearts across her home state. She returned to her
hometown, to the same streets where she once sat under a flickering streetlight, and opened a small clinic offering free and low-cost health care to the same community that once doubted her. On the clinic's opening day, she installed something symbolic right outside its entrance, a bright new streetlight, permanently lit, with a small plaque underneath that read, "For every child studying in the dark, the light is closer than you think." Part 8, the lesson, 2430 to 2700. Today, Dr. Amara runs a full-fledged medical center. She has trained over a dozen young doctors from underprivileged backgrounds, many of whom she personally mentors and funds through scholarships, the same kind of opportunity that once changed her life. When asked in an interview what she would tell a child sitting under a streetlight tonight, trying to study with nothing but a flickering bulb, she said, "I would tell them exactly what I wish someone had told me. Your circumstances are not your character. Your poverty is not your potential. The world will try to convince you that you need perfect conditions to succeed. You don't. You need one decision: to keep showing up night after night, page after page, even when no one is watching, even when no one believes in you." Amara's story isn't just about a streetlight. It's about every person who has ever felt like their circumstances were too heavy, their resources too little, their dreams too far away.
It's proof that greatness doesn't ask where you started. It only asks, did you keep going? So tonight, wherever you are, whatever street light you're sitting under, whether it's a lack of money, lack of support, lack of belief from the people around you, remember Amara. She didn't wait for better circumstances. She became her own light. If this story moved you even a little, imagine what showing up one more night could do for your own dream. Don't wait for the perfect conditions. Start where you are, use what you have, and keep going.